Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the ElementalMaker. Today we are brewing up a tasty yeast infection. Gonna be brewing some beer. Got the wife working a late shift at the hospital. She is a nurse, of course, and with the crazy pandemic going on, she's been working overtime. So we are brewing some beer. Took over the kitchen. Got a bunch of brewing supplies, and got my this is usually my secondary fermenter. This time we're going to be using it as my primary. I actually just finished up bottling the beer that you guys are kind of going to be following the process for. I lost the footage for actually brewing. I don't know what the hell happened to it, but so we're doing a repeat. I'm going to be brewing an amber ale today, but let's all pretend it is a Belgian Saison. Let's commence yeast infection. So to make a beer, obviously we need the ingredients. The most important being malt. Now, I know I'm probably going to get hell because I should be extract brewing, and I agree. I just don't have the time or the equipment right now. So, have some malt extract, which is kind of like molasses, but it's extracted from malt. This is primarily what the yeast break down and convert into CO2 and ethanol primarily, along with some other alcohols. What do we got here? Brown sugar. This is probably priming sugar. Yep, that's for bottling. And then we have what are the hops. Little red packet there is the yeast, and then the specialty grains that give the beer better flavor characteristics. Now, I'm not a proponent of any one company over the other. This is from Boom Chug-a-Lug. A lot of my kits are from Northern Brewer. This one just happens to be from Boom Chug-a-Lug because I love the name. How could you not love that name? I love it. So let's get the water boiling and start adding the ingredients. Got a couple gallons of water heating up on the stove, and what I'm going to do is measure out 4 or 5 grams of calcium chloride. Now for my source, this is just easy to find, Pickle Crisp Granules. It's pure calcium chloride, and pretty inexpensive. A few bucks for this bottle, which is a long time supply. There we go. About 4 grams of calcium chloride. I'm going to add that to the brew. Quick interjection here, because I totally skipped over it like a true YouTube pro. The reason I add calcium chloride to the water is because I start with RO water, which has virtually no mineral content in it at all. And to brew beer, it's actually better to use water with a little bit of hardness, a little bit of calcium. One, it lowers the pH of the water, helps the beer have a little better shelf stability. Also, the yeast love this stuff. I don't know the whole chemistry of it or the biology of it, but the yeast, it acts as a yeast nutrient, helps them be a little more healthy. So, that's why I use it. Alright, first step is our specialty grains. You see, I got a pot for all grain brewing. I just never got around to getting the rest of the kit. Alright, so I'm going to fill this cloth bag here with the brewing grains. Oh, son of a bitch. Never had that happen before. Quick trip with the strainer, and we're back in business. Oh, freaking right. As you can tell, this pot likes to thermally deform when it gets heated, and it causes it to shake. It's annoying as hell. Once it gets up to temperature, it's fine, but I gotta hold it here until it heats up. It's a huge pain in the dick. We are up above the 150 mark, as you can see here. The specialty grains are steeping. Got a timer set for half an hour. And then we will begin the boil, where we actually make our malt. additions and hop additions. Well, I missed 90% of the shot, but I'm squeezing out the rest of the malt here, making sure I got every little bit. Yeah, that's about as good as I'll get. Little rinse out with a tiny bit of RO water. Alright, we are just starting to boil. I'm going to add the first hops addition. Oh, I wish you guys could smell that. Whew, potent. Oh, that is frothy. Oh my God, does that smell good already? All right, we are at 60 minutes. Son of a bitch, that's hot. Oh God. One of these days I'll learn. But today will not be that day. All right, final hop additions. That is officially flame out. Here's the Willamette, and here's the Cascade. Beauty, we're all hopped up. Timer for 10-minute steeping. Now, if this was like an IPA or one of those super, you know, people who have lost all their taste buds, super hoppy beers, we would be adding a whole lot more. But, I'm just busting balls. Everyone's got their own taste. I'm kind of more prone to the Belgian, lighter on the IBUs. I'm not crazy about super hopped up beers. I'm good to about 100 IBUs, and past that I can't really drink it. Tastes too much like vomit to me. But some people love it, so. Alright, got a bit of an ice bath going in the sink here. Plus this is our well water, so it's coming out at like 54 degrees, nice and chilly. Add that sucker right to it. Try to get this cooled down as quickly as possible. Now, I always wondered what this process was for. Why do you have to cool the beer as quickly as possible? And I forget exactly where it is in the temperature range, but I want to say like between 150 and 170 or something like that, some non-arbitrary number to an actual brewer. You can get all sorts of reactions with the malt and proteins, and kind of forms off the flavors. So by cooling it quickly, you can help to eliminate those flavors. The other reason is to help conglomerate some of the proteins that are held in the wort and drop them out of solution nice and quickly. All right, adding the brew to the primary. Now here is my little trick, medical grade oxygen. So what we're going to do is use an air stone to diffuse the oxygen into the wort. This will help get the yeast off to a really aggressive fermentation. Look at all that oxygen. All right, so our wort is fully oxygenated, and now it is time to introduce the yeast. We're at a perfect temperature. We're right at 72 degrees. So already sterilized both of these. Just gonna clip the top and pitch our yeast right on in. We'll let those beauties get to work. And final piece, the airlock. We're in business. About 13 hours after pitching the yeast, and we have a nice krausen forming already. Lots of airlock activity. This is one hell of a yeast infection, boys. Gonna be delicious. Also, I keep it wrapped in a sweatshirt. Just because the basement's pretty cold. An ale is good down to 62, but I want to keep it somewhere around 68, 70, so this will be perfect. Now we will resume with the Saison, which I brewed in that bucket, since I now have the footage. So chopping that in now. Well, at this point our yeasty little buddies have been sucking in the sugars and farting out CO2 and alcohol for 13 days now. Fermentation has definitely stopped. No more airlock movement. It was actually a very, very fast fermentation. See, I got it wrapped in a blanket here. Pretty chilly in the basement, so I put a little heating belt around it with a covered up. Nice little PID controller. Set her for 77. It's a really good bit of kit. Works a treat. The basement was a little too cold for a Belgian Saison. They like to finish at a little warmer temperature, so I figure 77's a good temp. I'm not a pro. Don't follow me. Let's get her upstairs and move to secondary. Alright, so we're ready to transfer into secondary. Got obviously the primary fermenter full of the beer. Well, not really quite beer yet, it's not carved, but got our sanitizer. I keep a gallon ready to go. I got a spray bottle of Star San, and then a mason jar for smaller parts like the airlocks and bungs and whatnot. Of course, the most important part, brewing helper. You gonna help brew some beer? What do you think? You gonna help brew some beer? So, got my auto siphon set up, and I'm just gonna give it a... Whoa! I forgot I filled the tube there. I like to give it a few good pumps in the Star San. You can see I also filled the upper portion of the tube with Star San to make sure everything gets nice and sterilized. Or sanitized, rather. So I'm just going to stick the sanitized auto siphon into the primary now. Pour the sanitizer out and we'll transfer to secondary. Alright, give the hose one final spray down. Gonna put the transfer tube in there. You want to keep your beer as far away from oxygen as possible at this point. When you first make your mash, or wort rather, you want it nice and oxygenated for the yeast to get a hard hammer going. But at this point you don't want oxygen getting into your beer, so I always try to keep the hose against the side so it kind of just nicely siphons down rather than splashing and gurgling and all that. Well, let's get her moving. There's your transfer started. Now, one trick I do, this is a 6.5 gallon fermenter and we're only putting about 5 gallons in it. So there's about 1.5 gallons of headspace. What I do as a little trick to prevent oxidation at this stage, I'll flood the top of this with some argon. Now argon's a nice heavy gas, totally inert, so it's going to shield the beer from any oxygen. Of course there's going to be a tiny bit of diffusion through the actual plastic itself. Glass would be better to use, but I've seen an accident or two with those shattering, and that is some scary shit. So these are good enough for me. I'm not aging my beer for 6 months. Here's a gander inside the primary fermenter. So you can see the remnants of the krausen here. This is a layer of yeast foam that forms on top of the beer during the superactive fermentation stage of the yeast. And then there is the trub, kind of a nasty gelatinous sort of, it's a bunch of dead yeast and some live yeast. And unfortunately some unrecovered beer. Now before I go ahead and totally cap it off for another couple weeks, I gotta give it a little taste here. Cheers! When you got a beer that ain't bad flat, you know you got something good going. And at this point, she's going back in the basement to clarify and bulk age for just a couple weeks. At that point, I'll bottle it. I'm pretty excited though, that's already a great beer. One quick tip, if you don't want to spend a bunch of money on PBW, which is a fantastic product, but it is a little pricey, I use the OxyClean Free and buffer it with this stuff. Well, not so much buffer it, turbocharge it. Now, this is TSP PF. You do not want to use real TSP. Now, Red Devil makes one called, I want to say TSP 90, which is pure sodium metasilicate. This one is mostly sodium metasilicate, but it also has tetrazsodium EDTA, I believe it is, which is a anti-chelating agent. I'm probably butchering how the hell to say that. But I add this to the OxyClean, give it a good shaking, and you have a really, really close simulant of PBW for about half the price. Now, the thing is, this stuff is not food grade. Then again, I don't know if PBW is. You're always supposed to rinse after using these because they're just a cleanser. They're not a sanitizer. You only use these for cleaning. Star San or Ida4 or something of that nature is what you want to use for your actual sanitation. So always give this stuff a rinse, or your bottles and equipment a rinse after using this. Put the lid on, give it a shake up. Alright, got the bottle tree all racked up. Got some spares over here for, I don't know if I'll need more than this. It'll probably be about right because I have some bigger bottles and a bunch of Grolsch bottles on there. And got the beer in secondary. We're going to transfer that to the bottling bucket. Add our priming sugar. I'll actually probably add the priming sugar first and then pour our beer in. Just got some water on the stove here, so 16 ounces, and we're going to be using 2/3 cup of priming sugar, which is just corn sugar, so dextrose. I have about 20 bags of this stuff. I've been meaning to try it for a rocket engine, because you can do potassium nitrate dextrose rocket engine. There we go. You don't want to use too much or you'll actually blow up your bottles. They'll overpressurize. Alright, our priming sugar solution is up to a rolling boil. So that's important to sterilize everything. Because what we're doing here, basically a tiny little controlled fermentation after the fact. So there's still some live yeast in our beer. And what we're going to do is put it in bottles, cap it. It's going to digest this sugar, make a little bit of alcohol, but it's not going to have anywhere for the CO2 to go. And that's what's going to carbonate our beer. So we got our secondary fermenter up here, our bottling bucket down there. Already got a spigot on there. And I've already sanitized the line, sanitized up into the valve here, and sanitized everything down there. So, we're transferring. I'm going to add the priming sugar. All the bottles here need capping. You can see they're all filled about an inch from the top. Nice thing about the filling wand, it makes that easy. And got 7 Grolsch bottles filled and capped over here. That's why I love them, they're nice and easy. I should have used more, but... And we'll be coming back to this beautiful little devil in 2 weeks' time. Alright guys, here we are a month after bottling, probably a little over a month actually. Got the Saison color changing cap, because we're fancy as hell like that. And of course we're at the workbench. I was always taught by my chemistry teachers way back in high school. Of course he was a raging alcoholic, but he taught me to be drunk at the workbench. He shortly after got fired. I still got to work on my pour technique. Trying to keep most of the yeast sediment at the bottom of the bottle, since we actually live carbonated, so we're actually using the yeast to carbonate the beer. We add that little bit of priming sugar, builds up pressure in the bottle. That's where we get our carbonation. So you kind of want to keep that sediment out of your beer. Look at that beauty though. Ho ho. Ah. That is a damn good brew. Well guys, hope you enjoyed. I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this. I will see you next time. Please don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe, and if you like the channel, please support me on Patreon. Keep the channel going. YouTube does not seem to like promoting this channel for completely unknown reasons. And I'll see you next time. Have a great one. Damn good stuff. It's about 8 or 9%. I'm feeling it. One bottle. Love it.